So we have here the Rebbe Redt zu Kinder. This is a very, very, very special sefer because it's the sichas that the Rebbe spoke to Tzivas Hashem, to the children. And so I'll tell you like this, before we even get started. Reb Sadia Gaon says that there are 620 letters on the two tablets with the Ten Commandments. And that represents the fact that the Ten Commandments, although there are only 10, really contain within them all 613 commandments of Deiraisa, of the Bible, plus the 7 rabbinical commandments, which is the total 620. 620 letters on the two tablets to represent 613 mitzvahs plus the 7 rabbinical commandments. So the whole Torah is represented just in the 10 commandments. But really, you could condense it even further. The whole 10 commandments is really summed up in the first 2 commandments. Because as we know, all positive commandments are really conveyed through "I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt," and all negative prohibitions are all conveyed through "Don't have any other gods before me." So really, the whole Torah is summed up in the first 2 commandments. But really, you could condense it even further because the first 2 commandments are summed up in the first commandment, "I'm the Lord your God." That really says it all. But really, you could condense it even further. That the first commandment is really summed up in the first word, Anochi, I, meaning the real I, the Yesh HaAmiti, Hashem, the true absolute existence. And that sums up the whole Torah. But really, the truth is you could condense it even further. And that not only are all the 620 commandments, 613 biblical and 7 rabbinical, summed up in the 620 letters of the 10 commandments. And not only are the 10 commandments summed up in the first 2 commandments, I'm the Lord your God, there shall be no other gods. And not only are the first 2 commandments summed up in the first commandment, I'm the Lord your God. And not only is the first commandment, I'm the Lord your God, summed up in the first word, I, Anochi, but the first word Anochi is summed up in the first letter, Aleph, which means one, which is Hashem, who's one. And the Rebbe says, the Kometz Aleph O that every little child learns when they first start to learn Aleph base is the Kometz Aleph O of Anochi, within which is the Anochi of Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzisich Me'eretz Mitzrayim, within which is the first 2 commandments, within which are all the 10 commandments, within which are all 620 commandments, within which are all of the halachas and everything that will ever be revealed for as long as Torah Shebal Peh becomes infinitely unpacked and revealed. And it's all right there in the Kometz Aleph O of Anochi. The point is that when we teach things to children, we're not leaving anything out. We're condensing. There's a difference. There's a big difference. Sometimes when you don't have enough time to convey something, or you're speaking to an audience who's not well-versed enough in the area. So you just pick one thing to say and you skip other things. That's not what we do when we teach children. When we teach children, we're teaching them everything, just in a very condensed format, in a tiny little nekuda, or point, that contains the entire emes. And you really see that in the style, the way that Rebbe spoke to the children. The Rebbe is giving over the essence of Torah and Chassidus in a very simplified form. But it's not, chas v'shalom, that it's lacking anything. It's not nothing was taken out. To the contrary, everything's there. It's all contained within the simple words. Now, specifically, the style of the sichas to Tzivas Hashem, I just want to speak a little bit about that. Those who are familiar with the Rebbe's sichas, especially from Likutei sichas, which is probably how most people learn sichas, the edited sichas, you're familiar with the fact that the style is very, very much shakla v'tarya. Shakla v'tarya normally we think of in terms of Gemara. question and answer, refutation, proof, back and forth, honing a point until we come to a conclusion. And Chassidus Chabad was always in that style of learning inyanim of Pnimiyus HaTorah in the style of Nigla de Torah, meaning using the Talmudic dialectic of back and forth in order to teach spiritual concepts. And the Rebbe's style is really that way. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth. And, some sikhs, like a Rashi sikha, you could have 20, 30 shilas before we even start to clarify things, right? And the question and answer, the back and forth format is really inherent to the whole style of the sikha. Yet when we learn these sikhas, the way that the Rebbe spoke to children, you don't really have that. You don't really have the back and forth, the question, the answer, the refutation. What you have instead is just straight. The Rebbe said, "A Kind versteht nicht kein Kunzen." Kids don't understand tricks. They don't understand, that's why also children don't understand sarcasm. You should never be sarcastic with children. They don't get that. They take everything straight. And therefore you deliver everything to them straight. So you see the style of these sikhas is very straight. So to a certain degree, for us adults who are used to Likutei sikhas, it might seem at first kind of like, I don't want to say the word boring, but I'll say it. Let's just say, it's not challenging. There's not that intellectual discovery, right? That process of exploring the idea and turning over another stone and another stone. It doesn't have that. But instead, what it is, and you have to, if you change your expectations, then these sikhas are very, very, very geschmack and exciting and satisfying and fulfilling. It's not about the back and forth, it's about the straight delivery. The Rebbe is taking a point and he's delivering it to you in a very straight, simple path where you can really get the point and absorb it well for yourself. Okay, so let's take a look here. A sikha which was actually delivered, Aleph Derish Chedesh Tammuz Tofshin Mem Aleph, which is on page 42 of the Rebbe Redt zu Kinder from volume Hey, which is Bamidbar and Dvarim. Okay, Chukas, Nochash HaNecheshes, the copper snake. We'll read it in Yiddish and we'll translate. In heintige Parsha wird erzählt, als in dem letzten Jahr, wenn Jiden sein Gewinn in Midbar. In this week's Parsha, meaning Parsha's Chukas, it tells that in the last year that the Jews were in the wilderness, before they entered the land of Israel, seinen Jiden bestraft geworden, Jews were punished for nicht kein gewünschene Sachen, for some undesirable things. And the Rebbe doesn't mention what the undesirable things are because why elaborate? It's undesirable, right? That itself is a lesson. Und der Eibishter hat geheißen, Moshe Rabbeinu, zu machen a Nochash. So Hashem commanded Moshe to make a snake. Was Moshe hat gemacht von Kupfer, which Moshe made from copper, from Necheshes. Und angesagt Jiden, als der, was wird sich eingucken zu dem Nochash Necheshes, v'chai, wird leben. And he told Moshe that whoever looks at the snake, at the copper snake, will live. So anyone who needed healing, they should look at the copper snake and they will live. And the Rebbe doesn't elaborate on any of the other details of the narrative there. Okay. Seien die Chazal herabgebracht in Rashi auf dem Pasuk Mevar. So our sages, who Rashi brings in his commentary on this verse, explain. Sie denn can der Nochash töten oder machen leben? Can this snake really kill or enliven? This copper snake has any power to do anything? Nor, but rather, wenn Jiden gucken auf zum Eibishtin, when Jews would look up, because the snake was on a pole, it was high. So when they would look up, they would be looking up to heaven, und seine Meshabed their hearts so their Vater in Himmel, and they would subjugate their heart to their Father in heaven. Das hat sie ausgeheilt. That healed them. So it wasn't the snake. It was the snake was to get their attention to look up, and when they would look up, they would think of Hashem, and they would be healed. Das heißt, this means, nicht gucken dich auf die nicht gewünschene Sachen, was Jeden haben getan, irrespective of the undesirable things that the Jews did, und trotzdem, was sie haben sich noch gefunden in Midbar, und noch nicht rein in Eretz Yisrael. And even though they were still in the wilderness and not yet in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so two negative things. They did not nice things, and they're in the Midbar. They're not yet in their destination in the Holy Land. Von deswegen, nevertheless, even though they had those two negative things about their situation, nevertheless, Beshaz Yidden haben a Ruf geguckt zum Eibishtin, as soon as the Jews looked up to Hashem, und gebeten Hilfe von oben, and request help from above, hat das gleich gewirkt, that immediately worked, as bei Yidden soll sein v'chai, that the Jew would live. Sie haben bekommen emerson Leben von Eibishten, they received true life from Hashem. Und seinen geblieben Leben gor in Pashtus, and they remained alive in the most literal sense. Bis sie haben Zeiche gewen, to the extent that then they merited, as in a kurzer Zeit darum, in just a little time afterwards, noch in demselben Jahr, in that same year, seien sie hereingegangen in Eretz HaKodesh, they entered the Holy Land, was sie is geworden Yerusha for jeder Yid of Ebek, which is an eternal inheritance for every Jew. It's interesting, by the way. Why is it necessary to mention that Eretz Yisrael is a Yerusha for Yeder Yidden of Ebek, an eternal inheritance for every Jew? Is it important to shot here? It could be that I'm missing something. It's very possible I'm missing something, but I don't think it's important for pshat here. But I do think that when there's an opportunity for chinuch, you don't miss out on it. There's a mina from the Rebbe about an advertisement that was made for the Seder, and they put a cup of wine. So the Rebbe said, put 4 cups to show the 4 cups. And that visual of 4 cups is not actually something you would see at the Seder, right? Because you don't fill them all 4 at the same time. You do one after the other. So you really only have, at the Seder, you'd only have 1 cup at a time that would be full. But the Rebbe's point was that when you have an opportunity to be mechanech people about something, you don't lose that opportunity. So even though technically you could have a picture of matzah and wine, and that would convey the idea of Seder, but if you have an opportunity to teach that concept of 4 cups by visually representing 4 cups, so don't lose that opportunity, go ahead and teach it. The same thing is, if you mention Eretz Yisrael, maybe it's not so important to shot here, but it's an opportunity to remind the children that Eretz Yisrael is an eternal inheritance for every single Jew. So, of course, we're going to mention it. Okay. All right. So, basically, this part of the Sikha, and you see here, basically they broke it up this way, that, here, you have little dots over here. So this part of the Sikha is really the Parsha part of the Sikha. And whereas in a grown-up Sikha, you might have 6, 7, 8 pages of back and forth, and then at the very end you might have the Hira, the directive, the teaching. So here we have, this much on the Parsha, and then the Hira begins, the directive begins here, and continues until the end, okay? So it's very light on the expository teaching and very heavy on the didactic teaching, the instruction. The hero, lepoil, what you should do, what you should take from this. All right, let's continue inside. Der Far hat men a hero far jeder Yidden. Therefore, based on this story, we have a teaching, an instruction for every single Jew. Afilu für jüdische Kinder, was können lernen und verstehen Chumash mit Pirush Rashi. Even for little children who all they can learn at this point is Chumash Rashi. Es fordert sich doch von a Yidden. It is required from a Jew. As nicht gucken dich auf dem, was man gefindt sich in der Finsternis von Galus, irrespective of the fact that we are in the darkness of Galus, und wir haben nicht die Lichtigkeit von dem Beis HaMikdash und die Lichtigkeit von Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we don't have the light of the Beis HaMikdash and the light of Mashiach. Okay? So we're in a difficult situation. We're in the darkness of Galus. What does that mean? We don't have the light of Mashiach. We don't have the light of the Beis HaMikdash. Von deswegen, nevertheless, darf man dienen dem Eibishten mit Simcha, Lebendigkeit und Lichtigkeit. We have to serve Hashem with joy and vitality and brightness. How would you say it to a child? We have to serve Hashem with excitement. Okay? So this is sort of a parallel to the situation. In other words, it's a very, very, very basic parallel. What's the story of Nachash and Nachashis? We're not getting into Nachash, we're not getting into Nachashis. Basic story is, the Jews were not yet in Eretz Yisrael, they were still in the Midbar. They had just done some undesirable things, okay, so the situation was a negative situation. Nevertheless, that did not prevent them from being able to look up, ask Hashem for help, and immediately getting that help. So therefore, what's the thing that we need to take from this? That if we're in a situation that's negative, we're in a situation of Golus, where we don't have the light of Mashiach, we don't have the light of the Beis HaMikdash, but we should know that even though we're in a difficult situation, that is not going to prevent us from being able to look up and say, Hashem, help us, and immediately being able to be helped by Hashem. Or the way that the Rebbe says it here is, he even skips that whole part of asking Hashem and just goes to the bottom line, which is, we can serve Hashem with Simcha, Lebendigkeit, and Lichtigkeit, right? So basically the formula, the parallel is, the Yidden, in this week's Parsha, the Yidden were in a difficult situation, but that didn't stop them. Okay, so us, we might be in a difficult situation, but that doesn't stop us. It's a very, very, very simple parallel, and a very simple Nakuda, but such a powerful Nakuda. I mean, think about how many adults would pay a coach, would pay an inspirational speaker, how much money they would pay to be able to get that message of, you know what, we all have obstacles, we all have difficulties, but you know what, nothing can stop you from doing what you need to do. Oh, beautiful. And that's the message that Rebbe is giving. Okay, now, we're going to do a little bit of see, it's interesting. The questions generally in the Rebbe Redt Kinder Sichas are not shot questions, like, I wonder how that works. It's not like that. The questions are more like questions in the Hira part of the Sikha. So it's more like, you might wonder if the Hira really is serious. And that's the kind of question we're going to have right here. Okay. Can a Yiddish kind, on a mol, a filo, an ältere, fragen, a Jewish child, and sometimes even an adult, could ask, wie kann man denn dem Eibishten mit Simcha und Chayes, wenn wir es noch in der Finsternis von Galus? How can we serve Hashem with vitality, with joy and vitality, even though we're still in the darkness of Galus? Okay, so now that's a question. Again, it's not a question I'm shot in the story in the Chumash. It's a question about the Hira. But really? Can we really do it? And it's not like a deep question. It's not like it's not even like a specific challenge to the logic of the Hira. It's more like, are we sure? Can we really do it? And what's the answer? The answer is such a simple, straight shot answer. Lernt uns die Torah in heintige Sedra. So the Torah in this week's Parsha teaches us, as a filo, wenn mir is noch in Midbar, even when you're still in the wilderness, noch edem geterein Eretz Yisrael, before you went into Eretz Yisrael, b'shas aber men guckt darauf zum Eibishten, but if you look up to Hashem, ken sein v'chai, you can live. Men soll bakumen von Eibishten emes and leben, you can receive from Hashem real life. That's it. So the hira was that nevertheless, even though you might be in the darkness of Golus, you can still connect to Hashem and serve Hashem with the full joy and excitement. And the question was, really? Can we really do it? Yes, you can really do it. Very simple. Very, very, very simple. Yes, you can really. Are you sure? Yes, we're sure. That's what the Parsha teaches us, that we could do it. Okay? All right. And then Rebbe hammers it home. Und dieselbe Sach in unserer Zeit. So just like it is in the Parsha, we're doing the parallel again. This is the second time we're doing the parallel between the Parsha and our times. Und dieselbe Sach in unserer Zeit. So same thing in our times. Wenn wir gefinden sich noch in Golus, even though we're still in Golus, und wir davenen, beten und monnen, Vivant Mashiach now, and we are praying and we're asking and we're demanding. We want Mashiach now. Why are we demanding? Well, Mashiach is noch nicht gekommen, because Mashiach still hasn't come. So obviously we're still demanding. And even though we're in a situation where we want Mashiach, and the Rebbe pointed out once, want in English, when you say that in Lashon HaKodesh, reitzim, which means we want, but it doesn't have, it's rotzen, which is desire. Want in English means to be lacking something. Something's lacking. So as long as we want Mashiach, we're still lacking Mashiach. So we're still in a difficult situation. Von deswegen, nevertheless, can bei uns sein v'chai, we can still have life, which means leben mit alle Inyonen von Yiddishkeit und Torah und mitzvahs, to live. That means to have vitality and excitement in all the matters of Judaism and Torah and mitzvahs, which are our life and the length of our days. Und die Chayes darf sich ausdrücken in Tag, täglich und Leben. And that excitement has to come out in our day-to-day life. Beficha v'lovavcha lasseisei. The Rebbe here is incorporating one of the 12 psukim. So what does it mean to have this chayas? That it comes out in our day-to-day life, which means in our mouth and our heart, which is thought, to do it, which is action. All three levushim. In machshava, dibur, un maise. Three levushei nefesh from Tanya. See, you have the whole Tanya is in this little sikha. Okay, sai benegeya zu sich, both in regards to one's work that he has to do on himself, und sei zu wirken das selbe auf andere, and also to accomplish the same with others. A very fundamental concept in all the Rebbe sichas, both to adults and to children, that whatever you've got, you got to give it away. That's the way you really have it, is by giving it away to others. Okay. Beshas jeder Yid weißt auf, as die Torah, was hat bekommen bei Yerusha, is die teuerste Sache bei ihm. And when every Jew shows that the Torah that he inherited is the most precious thing to him. By the way, where's this coming from? It doesn't say that. I mean, we didn't say it so far, at least not in this sikha. But again, you never miss an opportunity to hammer home a main point. Just like we hammered home that idea when you mention Eretz Yisrael, you mentioned that it's a Yerusha for every single Jew forever. When you mention Torah, Torah is a Yerusha for every single Jew. And it should be that the most precious thing. In fact, when the Rebbe first rolled out the 12 psukim on Aleph Deresh Chedesh Iyar Tavshin Lamed Vav, so the first 6 psukim were from that Fabrengen, and Lag Baimer was the second group of 6 psukim. But when the Rebbe said Teira Tzivalano, the first of the psukim, the Rebbe said, what does Teira Tzivalano mean? It means that a child should know that just like he has toys and dolls and things that he finds precious, so he should know that Torah is precious. The idea of the Teirkeit from Torah. Torah is precious. A child knows what precious is. He has things. If he left his dolly in the car and you went into the store, he doesn't want to leave his dolly. He wants to go back and get the dolly, or maybe even more. You left the dolly in the store and you got in the car. You're gonna have to go back to the store to get the dolly, right? Okay. Let's continue here. Und Torah beleicht sein Tag, täglich in Leben, bis sein ganzes Leben führt sich Leut die Anweisungen von Torah. And Torah illuminates his entire day-to-day life until his whole life is conducted according to the teachings of Torah. Und wirkt ein auf die alle Rumem, and he influences everyone around him. As their Yiddische Leben soll sein beschleimus, that also their Jewish life should be complete. Demot kommt Mashiach Tzidkenu, and then Mashiach will come. Und nehmt der Reis alle Jiden von dem Midbar von Galus and take us all out of the wilderness called Galus und führt sie zu unser heiliger Land and lead them all to their holy land. Eretz Asher Goymer Tamid Eine Hashem Elokecha Bo Mereishis Hashana Vad Achris Shana, the land on which Hashem's eyes are from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Und die Land is ganz, and the land will be complete, weil sie führt sich auf in a Yiddischen Eufen in Ganzen, because the land will conduct itself completely a Jewish way. Wow, that's some deep social commentary for children. Obviously, the children are not aware of what the Rebbe is commenting on, that Eretz Yisrael needs to be a place that's not just a Jewish land, but the behavior of the people in the land has to be Jewish, which means Al Pi Torah. The Rebbe is putting that in there, planting the seeds for these ideas. Like all these core ideas are just sprinkled along the way. Okay. Man geht mit Mashiach Tzedkenu zu der Geula Amitis V'Ashleima, and we go with Mashiach Tzedkenu to the true and complete redemption. And that is our Sicha, Baruch Hashem. So, let's wrap it up. Basic concept here. Basic concept is, this week's Parsha, the Jews had some problems. They did some not nice things. I'm not sure what the not nice things were. It's not important. And they got into they had some problems. I think they weren't feeling well because they needed to be healed. Okay, none of that's so important. The point is, Hashem told Moshe, you make a snake and everyone will look at it and they'll feel better. Well, how is a snake supposed to help? Oh, it's because when you look up, you think of Hashem and then you're okay. Wow. So what does that mean? It means that even though they were in a difficult situation, as soon as they looked up to Hashem, they were okay. And what does that mean for us? That means that even though we're in a difficult situation, we're in Galus, and we don't have the light of the Beis HaMikdash and the light of Mashiach, but as soon as we think of Hashem and we want to connect to Hashem, we're going to be able to connect to Hashem completely with Simcha and Lebedekeit and Lichtigkeit. And even though you could ask, is it really so? Could we really do it? Yes, this week's Parsha teaches us you can really do it, and you can live completely in accordance with Torah, and you can affect everyone around you to live that way too. That's it. That's our Sicha. Okay.
Shukayach Rabbi Tal, that was really beautiful.